Have you ever gotten into a huge argument with a friend about a movie ending? Or finished a book and just thought, wait, did I get that right? We all do this. We all hunt for the real meaning in a story. But what if there isn't one single meaning set in stone? That's the really fascinating puzzle we're diving into today.
Right, so this is the big one. This is the question that people have been wrestling with for ages. Who's in charge of the meaning? Is it the author, whatever they originally intended, that's the final word? Or is the text, the book itself, a kind of locked box with only one correct interpretation inside? Or, and this is where it gets really interesting, is the true meaning actually happening in your mind as the reader?
If you look back through history, the spotlight for where meaning lives has jumped around a lot. For the longest time, everyone was obsessed with the author. It was all about psychoanalyzing them to figure out their secret intentions. When that kind of hit a dead end, the focus shifted to the text itself. People treated it like an object to be dissected, with one single correct meaning. But that didn't feel like the whole story either. And that brings us to the most recent and maybe the most revolutionary step, putting the focus on you, the reader.
And this is exactly where reader response criticism comes into the picture. And honestly, it's a total game changer. The core idea is that meaning isn't just sitting there on the page, waiting for you to find it like some hidden treasure. Nope. It argues that meaning is created in the dynamic act of reading. You're not just a passive audience member, you are an active partner in creating the story's meaning.
This quote just nails it, right? Think about it for a second. A book sitting on a shelf is just ink and paper. It's inert. It's lifeless. It's only when a reader picks it up, opens it, and starts engaging with it, bringing their own thoughts, feelings, and experiences to the table, that the story actually comes alive.
Okay, but wait. This opens up a huge can of worms. If the reader is the one creating the meaning, does that mean a story can mean whatever you want it to? Is it a total free-for-all? Well, it turns out, even within reader response theory, there's a massive debate about that very question.
So, the theory kind of splits into two main camps. Think of it like a spectrum of reader freedom. On one end, you have a more conservative approach. This one says, whoa, not so fast, the text is still in charge here. But on the other, more radical end, they basically hand all the power over to you. Let's break down how each of these actually works.
So the key idea in the conservative view, which I think her named Wolfgang Iser really developed, is the idea of gaps. See, an author can't possibly write down every single detail. They leave things unsaid, creating these empty spaces in the story. Your job as the reader is to use your imagination to fill in those blanks. But, and this is crucial, your creativity is still guided and limited by the clues the author left for you. And the perfect way to think about this is a connect the dots puzzle. The author gives you the numbered dots on the page. You can't just draw a car if the dots are clearly meant to be a boat. You have to follow the path they've laid out. But you are the one holding the pencil. You're the one who actually draws the lines and makes that final picture appear. Now let's jump to the total opposite end of the spectrum, the radical approach, with a guy named Stanley Fish leading the charge. Takes this whole thing way further. He argues that readers don't just fill in gaps, they literally create the text itself. For Fish, a text has zero meaning on its own. It only gets meaning when it's viewed through the lens of what he calls an interpretive community, which could be anything, a college class, a book club, or even a Reddit forum of fans debating a sci-fi show. So forget connect the dots. The analogy here is completely different. It's an inkblot test, like a Rorschach test. The text is just a meaningless shape on the page. All the meaning, oh, I see a butterfly, or no, it's a scary monster, is projected onto that shape by the person looking at it. And it's based entirely on their own mind and the group they're a part of.
All right, so we've got these two powerful competing ideas. But what does this all mean in the real world? Why does any of this matter? Let's take a look at the strengths and the weaknesses of this whole way of thinking.
Okay, on the contribution side, this theory is huge. It's a powerful reminder that none of us come to a story as a blank slate. We're not objective observers. And that's okay. It encourages us to be humble and actually listen to how other people interpret the same story. But if we look over at the critiques column, there's some pretty big problems. If a text just reflects what's already in our head, how can a book ever challenge our beliefs or change our minds? And if you take that radical view to its logical conclusion, you can end up in a place where anything goes and meaning becomes totally relative, which can be a problem. So this brings us to the final, ultimate question that this whole theory forces us to confront. It all kind of boils down to one simple but really profound metaphor. So what is a text when you really get down to it? Is it a mirror? Is it something that just reflects what you already bring to it, your own biases, your own values, your community's beliefs just staring right back at you? Or is it a window? Is it something that lets you look out and see a different world, a meaning that exists outside of yourself? Even if, that window is a little smudged or the glass is a bit dirty.
So which is it? The conservative camp? The connect the dots folks? They'd say you're looking through a window, guided by the author's design. The radical camp, the inkblot folks, they'd say you're staring straight into a mirror, just seeing a reflection of your own community. So the next time you pick up a book or watch a movie, ask yourself that question. Am I looking through a window or am I looking into a mirror? And what does your answer tell you about how you make sense of the world?